You've seen Jurassic Park 3, right? Of course you have. Then you remember that scene. A brand new dinosaur, one that's bigger, meaner, and just plain scarier than a T-Rex, comes in and snaps its neck. That was the world's introduction to Spinosaurus, and it instantly became this ultimate movie monster.
For millions of people, that became the image of Spinosaurus. You know, this hyper-aggressive, super predator that lived on land. It was the dinosaur that did the impossible. It dethroned the king.
But here's the thing, that movie monster, it's just the tip of the iceberg. The real animal is infinitely weirder and honestly, so much more fascinating. Its story is a true scientific detective story, full of discovery, destruction, and a whole bunch of shocking twists that have completely rewritten the rules for what a predatory dinosaur could even be. And our detective story, it doesn't start today, no. We have to go that over 100 years to a brilliant paleontologist and a discovery that would, quite literally, become a ghost.
It all starts back in 1912. A German paleontologist named Ernst Stromer finds parts of a skeleton in Egypt. And its most incredible feature, these incredibly long spines coming off its back. So he calls it Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, the spine lizard from Egypt. Makes sense, right? Now, with only a few bones to go on, his first reconstruction in 1936 was a pretty logical guess. He basically took the body of a typical big predator and just stuck that amazing sail on its back. But then tragedy strikes. Stromer was a vocal critic of the Nazi regime, and he begged the museum director in Munich to move these one-of-a-kind fossils to a safe place. He was completely ignored. And in an Allied bombing raid in April of 1944, the museum was hit, and the only Spinosaurus skeleton on Earth was turned to ash.
And just like that, it was gone. The original evidence, poof, vanished. For the next 70 years, Spinosaurus became this phantom, a dinosaur that we only knew from Stromer's amazing, detailed drawings and some old photos. The mystery was only just beginning. The case wouldn't be cracked open again until the 21st century. New fossils started popping up in the deserts of North Africa, and these new clues, well, they pointed in a direction that nobody saw coming. Okay, so the first clues came from the skull. A long, slender snout, described in 2005, showed that its nostrils were set way high up on its head, which is perfect if you want to breathe while the rest of your snout is underwater, kind of like a crocodile. And the bone itself, it was covered in these tiny little pits called foramina. In modern crocs, these pits hold pressure sensors they use to feel things moving in the water. Then, a few years later, a chemical analysis of its teeth told the same story. The oxygen isotopes inside were a match for aquatic animals, not other land-based dinos. But the real bombshell, the one that changed everything, dropped in 2014 with a new skeleton. It revealed these shockingly short, kind of paddle-like hind legs. And, get this, incredibly dense bones. Now, those dense bones, that's a huge clue. There's a scientific name for it, pachyostosis. And this isn't just about being heavy-boned. No, this is a very specific adaptation. The best way to think about it is like a built-in diver's weight belt. Animals like manatees and penguins, they have these dense bones to help them fight against their own buoyancy so they can stay underwater without having to struggle. Finding this in a giant predatory dinosaur, that was a massive, massive clue that it was spending a whole lot of time in the water. This new version of Spinosaurus was so bizarre, so totally unlike any other predator we'd ever seen, that some scientists actually wondered if the fossil was even real. The idea of a chimera, a jumble of bones from different animals all mixed together, was seriously considered because this combination of a giant sail, tiny back legs, and super dense bones, it just didn't seem possible. And this created a whole new puzzle. All the signs were pointing to a life in the water, but those stubby little hind legs, they just seemed way too weak to push a 15-meter-long animal through the water. So how could it be a good hunter? The clues weren't quite adding up yet. But the answer, the final piece of the puzzle that would just snap everything into focus, it was found just a few years later, right back in those same Moroccan fossil beds. In 2020, Nazar Ibrahim and his team announced they'd found the rest of the skeleton, including the tail. And oh my gosh, what a revelation. This was not the stiff, pointy tail of a T-Rex. It was deep, it was flexible, and it was shaped like a giant paddle. It was basically a fish's tail attached to a dinosaur. So just to understand what a game changer this was, researchers actually tested plastic models of this tail in a water tunnel. And the result?
The Spinosaurus tail could generate more than 8 times the propulsive thrust of other meat-eating dinosaur tails. This wasn't some little rudder for balance, this was an engine. The excitement was so huge, it even led to one of those legendary internet moments. A German museum was announcing the update to their Spinosaurus model, and the automatic translation software had a little, well, a slip-up. It became a pretty funny footnote to a world-shaking discovery. So that's it, case closed, right? Spinosaurus was a giant, swimming river monster. Well, in science, it's rarely that simple. A groundbreaking discovery is usually the start of a whole new debate, not the end of one. So now the scientific community is kind of split, with two main theories based on the exact same evidence. On one side, you have Team Aquatic Pursuit Predator. They see a dinosaur actively swimming through deep rivers, using that powerful tail to chase down giant fish. But on the other side, you have Team Shoreline Ambush Hunter. They argue that the huge sail would have made it really unstable in open water. So maybe it waded around like a giant heron, using its tail for powerful lunges at prey from the shallows. So while the debate rages on, one thing is absolutely undeniable. The incredible transformation our picture of this animal has gone through. I mean, just look at this journey. We started with Stromer's classic land predator back in '36. Then in the '90s, it got a bit more slender, thanks to pop culture. Then 2014 came along and turned it into this bizarre, short-legged wader. And finally, the 2020 tail gave us the paddle-tailed river monster we imagine today. Every single major discovery has forced us to completely rethink everything. And the scientific world is absolutely captivated by this. In 2022 alone, the word Spinosaurus showed up in over 360 scientific papers. This is not some forgotten dinosaur tucked away in a museum basement. It is one of the hottest topics in paleontology right now. The main takeaway here is just how fast science can move. Based on new fossils, our entire idea of this animal has flipped, from a creature of the land to a master of the water, in just a handful of years. It's amazing. The story of Spinosaurus is really the perfect example of science in action. It's a puzzle where every time we find a new piece, the whole picture changes. We're still missing complete legs, parts of the skull. So the real question isn't just what Spinosaurus was, it's what new discovery is buried out there right now, just waiting to make us tear up our drawings and start all over again.